Man, I know it's been a while, but I'm back and I got another build for you guys. Today, I'm making the NovaCorp helmet. Hold on, wait. 1 minute. All right, so I know you guys are probably thinking, okay, what happened? I know this part of the video, I usually show the build process and I just usually blaze through it and then talk about it afterwards. So for this video, for this in particular build, and because I haven't put out a video in a while, I want to take my time and kind of go through the process more in depth and actually take you into my workspace, which is my garage, and show you a little bit more in depth of the process and actually walk through the process a little bit slower and give you guys more of a tutorial more than just kind of a here's the end product. First, I'm going to talk about the modeling process, and then but before that, I actually have the helmet that's done. All right, so here it is. Here is the NovaCorp helmet, and very pleased how it came out. I'm going to talk about some of the problems that I had with this build. As always, having no luck today. But let's talk about the modeling process. I know I wanted to model a helmet, just didn't know what. I tend to type into Google like concept art for Marvel or DC or whatever it is, and I typed in Guardians of the Galaxy, and it brought up a lot of NovaCorp helmets that they were that they drew up for the movie, and I found this one in particular and thought it was really cool. So I said, cool, let me go ahead and model this and print it and see how it comes out. Now there's a bunch of different ones. I actually found a few more that I want to do. I actually like this one better than the one they used in the movie. It just came out better. Like it looks better to me. It has a cross between like Judge Dredd and the NovaCorp. Somebody said online that it looks like Judge Dredd and the NovaCorps had a baby.
I am the law.
But nonetheless, I still think it's cool. All right, so the modeling process. So as usual, I modeled the helmet in Cinema 4D, and it was a pretty straightforward model. It took me about 4 or 5 hours to model, and I usually pull in a head bust that I have that I know the dimensions fit my head and modeled around that head bust. Let's head over to my workshop so we can go ahead and start the build. Okay guys, so I printed this on my CR10, and I printed it at a 0.2 layer height, and I did not print any supports running up the middle of the helmet. So IC3D was so kind enough to send me a roll of PETG, and we'll talk about this more in a second. Success! It printed just fine without any supports in the middle of the head. So now it's time to get this guy off the print bed. Woo! 56 hours. Good to go. Alright, so here's the final printed helmet. Came out great. I'm very satisfied with the way it printed. Like I said earlier, IC3D sent a roll of PETG for me to try, and I think at this point, because of the results that I got, I'm going to be turning the tide and working with PETG from now on. Alright, so for those of you that follow me on Twitter know that I posted this video. So I was starting a new print, and when I started the print, I usually have to take the SD card out to put it into the computer to load a file on it, put it back into the printer so the printer can print that file. I started a new print. Actually, I was heating up the bed, and I pulled out the SD card. Now I was 42 hours into this print, and I had to print this helmet twice because I pulled out the SD card and I couldn't resume the print. So just this much printed. So I'm missing like half the top of the helmet, and as you can see, like, so this thing looks crazy. I did get some ideas from people on Twitter to kind of do things with this, and one person in particular suggested that I do like a zombie kind of feel to this helmet. So that's what I'm going to do, and that'll probably be another video later on, but I thought that was a cool idea, so I'm going to utilize that. Some people even suggested to make a flower pot out of this, which would be cool as well. But yeah, I'm going to do something with this. So quick tip, do not pull out your SD card when it's printing, because you're going to lose your print. But yeah, so that's that. Let's get started. I'm excited to see how this is going to turn out. I'm going to be using, I usually use rattle can, but for this one I'm going to use, for this build I'm going to use airbrushing. And I'm going to be using some lacquers and of course sanding, wet sanding, and we're just going to go through this and hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so I'm getting ready to start sanding. For this part of the process, I go ahead and start with 100 grit. Also remember, safety first. I usually always wear a respirator. Let's get started. Alright guys, we're going to start the tedious process of sanding. Like I said before, I'm starting off with 100 grit. I'm just going to share a really quick tip with you guys. Alright, so I wanted to take a closer look at the sanding process for this. I tend to sand opposite the direction that the print lines are going. So because this helmet was printed in this manner, in this orientation, the print lines are layering up. So what I do, instead of sanding along with the print lines, because the print lines are actually moving this way, I sand against them, so this way that when I'm actually sanding, I'm mending those lines together. So instead of sanding this way along with the print line, I'm sanding the opposite way against the grain per se. So hopefully you guys take away that tip. So sand against the print lines, not along with the print lines. So again, print lines are going this way, I'm sanding against that, up and down. Alright guys, so I'm just going to show you a quick demonstration of what I was talking about earlier. So I'm sanding along the print lines and not much is happening. But when I sand against the print lines, you'll be able to see I made some progress, and it was pretty quick. So now, after I have everything sanded, I'm hitting the helmet with a few layers of primer filler, and the primer filler pretty good at filling in some of those areas that have not been sanded down properly. So now I'm going to fill in some of the problem areas with spot glazing putty. So as you can see, I'm pointing out a lot of the areas that couldn't be fixed with sanding, and some of the deep print lines that I couldn't get with sanding. So the spot glazing putty is gonna fill in those areas, and when I sand it down, we'll have a smooth surface. And I just apply this with my fingers using, of course, with gloves on, as you can see. So here it is with all the spots covered in spot glazing putty, and now I'm gonna move on to sanding it. I start with 220 grit, and I move up to about 800. And you want to do this in a ventilated area because there's some pretty nasty fumes that come off the spot glazing putty. And here it is. I have washed the helmet off, and now I'm drying it off, and it's all sanded down, ready to move on to the next step. And the next step is wet sanding, and right now I'm wet sanding with 1500, and then I move on to 2000 grit. And kind of my trick is to keep the sandpaper really wet while I'm doing the wet sanding. Alright, now I'm hitting with the final coat of primer, and I lay on maybe about 4 layers of the final coat of primer, and then I'll let that dry. And here it is. A few hours of sanding, and you got yourself a nice smooth helmet. So on the table here I have all the paints that I'll be using. Now I did not use a sealer on this, and I'll probably go back and use a sealer, but again, these are all the paints that I use, and there'll be a link in the description for each one. Okay, so what I have here right now is the 3D model of the actual helmet, and what I'm wanting to do is the original render. So this is where renders come in handy. So the original render that I have of this, the middle piece of the helmet here, the actual star, is red, and then the trim marks towards the end of the actual helmet is red as well. I have some gold lacquer, and what I'm going to do is, before I actually paint it to see what it's going to look like, I'm going to do a render of the coloring to see what that looks like. So I'm going to change this red, actually I'm going to change the red hair to gold and see what that looks like before I actually go ahead and decide to make, before I actually decide when I paint this that I'm going to make it gold, and then it not look right. So let's see what this looks like, and then from there I'll make an executive decision to see if I'm going to use gold or not, or if I'm just going to stick with the red. And that doesn't look bad, just off the actual render. I'm liking the gold, but I want to see what it's gonna look like, and then I'm gonna take a bigger picture. So that's a rough render. All right, so this is the color scheme I have chosen to go with. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to do the star in the middle of the head that's running down from the nose to the back, red. I am going to do the gold trim running alongside the helmet and in the front of the helmet. So in this way, and then the rest of the helmet is going to be gunmetal. I like this color scheme. I may change this coming down towards the end. I'm not sure, but right now I'm liking this color scheme. Alright, so I have the helmet all sanded and primed and it's ready for paint, but first I'm going to do a couple paint tests before I even get started. So right now I have 2 spoons, and I have the primer that I have on the helmet right now on this spoon, and then I have, which it's not looking too good, but I have a coat of clear gloss black paint on this. So I'm going to be using, for the red on this helmet, this metal cast color that, if you look on my YouTube channel, I use this on my regular helmet. I want to make sure that this is not going to crack up or wrinkle on the paint. So what I'm wanting to do is lay down a coat of black gloss on the helmet and then go over it with the red paint. But I'm not sure how, because they're 2 different brands, so I'm not sure how they're going to react. I know for a fact that the black clear gloss paint on top of this primer is going to work because I've done it before, but I'm not sure how this paint is going to react to either the gloss or the primer. So I'm going to do a couple test coat, because I would hate to spray this on and then mess up the helmet and then I got to paint it all over again. I mean sand it all over again, and then I'm back to square one. So yeah, test out on some spoons, do test paint before if you're unsure, because I've had many projects I had to go back and paint because I didn't do this prior to. So yeah, test. So I'm glad I did the test. As you can see, the spoon on the left, that is the one with the primer. The paint didn't do that well, and the spoon on the right was with the black gloss, and that did just fine. So next I'm going to lay down a layer of black gloss, and this is Lacquer by Alclad, and I end up having to switch airbrushes because this airbrush in particular wasn't laying it down evenly, so I switched over to an entirely different one and was able to get it on properly. And I'm just finishing up here, and then this is the final product. Now I am laying down the gold by Model Masters, and that went on pretty well as well. I then masked everything off and began to lay down the gunmetal over the entire helmet. And this is where I thought everything was going good, and then I ran into some problems. So I got the gunmetal on and thought everything was fine, and then when I looked, it started cracking up right in the front. No place else on the helmet. Right in the front of the helmet, in this area right here, it just started cracking up. Not sure why that happened. I thought it was dry. I'm not sure what exactly happened. Usually I can go back and pinpoint, like maybe it was too wet or it wasn't dry enough. Everything was dry to the touch, so I'm not really sure if it was just a circumstance thing or something went wrong. I'm not sure what it is, but it cracked up in the middle here. So I allowed it to dry overnight before I touched it again. When I came back the next morning, so how I fixed it, and I didn't record this, but how I fixed it was I started off with 800 grit, and I sand all the cracks out, and I didn't sand it down to the bare surface. I just sanded it enough to where I saw the primer, and then I went over that with, I believe it was 1,500 and then 2,000 grit sandpaper to smooth everything out. Once I had everything smoothed out and it was smooth to the touch, I went ahead and masked off the entire helmet, leaving the areas where I wanted to paint red, and then I went ahead and spray painted it red. Then I ran into my second issue. As I was peeling off the masking tape, it started to peel off the red paint with the masking tape. And again, no place else. There was little areas in the back here, but the biggest area was right here in the front. And I'm just like, I'm having no luck with this helmet. I was left with a big chunk of paint missing from the front of the helmet, and I was just like, all right, what am I gonna do now? So that's when I decided to go ahead and weather it. Again, I didn't want it this weathered, but I'm liking the weathered look. And what I'll do is I'll probably print another one and go ahead and give that one a clean look. In terms of weathering, I mixed up some brown and black acrylic paint and just smeared it all over the helmet and wiped it down with a wet cloth, and then just kept doing that until I got the desired look. I dry brushed some silver paint along the edges to make it look like it was scratched. So what I did for the area that peeled off with the tape, I just dry brushed some silver paint over that area, and then I went ahead and dry brushed some black acrylic paint over that area, and it just made it look like it was like a scratch mark in the helmet. But overall, I'm pleased how this came out, happy how it came out, and yeah, so no corpse. All right, so I know you guys are probably wanting to see what it looks like when I try it on. And it fits great. I'm probably gonna put some padding in the back of the helmet so that I don't have that bobblehead. But other than that, it fits really well. So yeah, super happy how this came out. Alright guys, so that does it for this build. I hope I gave you more information than I'm used to giving you, or that you're used to, and I hope it was helpful. Again, I have no problem with highlighting any mistakes that I make, because I want to learn from them. I want you guys to learn from them, and then if you guys have any suggestions for me that I can take away, or anything that you can take away from my mistakes, I'm willing to share, and you guys can leave any suggestions or comments down in the comment section. Any tips or anything that I can learn. So this way that we're feeding off each other and we're both learning from each other as well. So again, I'm learning, I'm going through the process of learning from my mistakes. So if I can help you guys learn from my mistakes and you guys can help me, I think that's a beautiful thing. So a little bit of news. I'm starting a Patreon page, and I will have files available for download if you're a Patreon, and you'll be able to download this file and print one yourself. I'm also probably going to do a tier where you'll be able to actually get a finished product or a finished item from one of the videos. So that I'm still working out how I'm gonna do that, but eventually down the road, as I start, because I'm seriously running out of room, and I don't mind giving these away. So that's something to come down the road. I'm still working out how I'm gonna do that. But head over to the Patreon page. The link is down in the description. You can download this file. I'll be making files available every month. I do want to say that you're going to start seeing more content coming out from this channel and other various platforms as well. One platform in particular is going to be Make. So I just released a video on this guy. This is the Gazer Beam helmet from Incredibles. The video, by the time this video comes out, this should be on the channel or should be coming out on the channel. So I'm not exactly sure. If you want to see how I made this helmet, then you can head over to Nate's channel, and yeah, you can go check this video out on their channel. So I did leave a list of items that I used to complete this build, and that will be down in the description box. Now those are affiliate links, but that helps me out and helps the channel out, and it helps me to produce content for you guys. And as I mentioned earlier, I did print this on a CR10, so if you want to purchase one, I did leave a link in the description box as well. So if you want to keep up to date with the things that I'm doing, the projects that I'm working on, you can follow me on Twitter at TheBrokenNerd83, or you can follow me on Instagram at TheBrokenNerd83. Again, I thank you guys so much. More content to come. I have some more videos planned out. You're gonna see more videos coming from this channel, and like I said, from other platforms as well. So once again, I thank you guys for tuning in. Peace and love. God bless. Hold on, wait. That's the wrong character.